in a open pail, in a bucket, and the sound that it makes when it hits the bottom.
Yes. You're popular.
Yeah.
Oh, it's your wife calling. Make sure everything's okay.
See.
This is what you call reality show. So internet is all reality, as you can tell,
Yeah.
Oscar. Yeah, which is fine. So don't worry about it. It's okay. Go ahead.
So,
It's like a
so
drop in the water when it hits.
yeah, when it hits, and then the response of it,
Yes, I
and
think we're
um,
going to have to turn that thing off, Oscar. Can
yeah,
we?
I've been trying to turn it off, but it doesn't seem to want to go off. Hold on, there it goes. Um,
Okay.
it's going off now.
Good.
Um,
Okay.
and then there's the response from it,
Yeah.
like in a conversation, like you and I talking.
Correct.
So when you play in an ensemble, you're responding from the what the musicians are playing that you're playing with. It's you're having a conversation with them.
And it's all put
And
together as one.
yes, and when you do a solo performance, you're having a conversation with yourself and the environment around you. And so the consciousness has to be within and without.
Yeah, that is really being conscious. Because you did solo for what, 2 years? You went off and did solo, didn't you?
I still do. I still do.
Do you prefer? Would you rather do a solo, or would you rather be in a big band, or what is your favorite place to be when you're playing, or by yourself?
I'm really strange in that way. I love accompanying vocalists, and
Really?
or great soloists. I think that's a unique station where because you shape your ideas based off of the personality that you're working with. And what happens when you do a lot of solo performances, what happens, it becomes more difficult and more difficult to draw upon oneself, no matter how big your vocabulary is. Because what happens is that you can cover the last 10 years of your life, but at the end of the 10 years, it becomes another whole subject.
Another whole thing. Wait, I've got another question here for you. How do you communicate and talk to other musicians as to how you're going to put this all together with the jazz? Because as you were saying, jazz kind of takes on its own thing of how you're all playing and how you're getting.
You know what? Musicians pick other musicians out of a relationship. It's like family. And when you call musicians that are at that level, there's a certain level of extrasensory perception that comes into play there because you know them so well and they know you so well.
So you kind of talk in the whole thing through the music, through the instruments, and you seem to know where each other's going and how you're putting this all together.
You know the personality of that human being, and you have an idea how they might respond to a comedy, to comedy or something that you may send them, a message you'll send to them and how they receive and send it back to you. And then you respond to them again.
With your message, and it's all done through the music and through the whatever you're playing. You were with Dizzy Gillespie. That must have been incredible. How old were you when you got into all that? It seems like you were quite young, 1978. You got into that?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I mean,
well, let's have a loaded answer.
The story behind that, I have to write a book. I met Dizzy Gillespie through my dad, and my father knew a lot of musicians, and we had a lot of people come through and stay with us and eat food. My mother cooked incredible fried chicken, and she was known for that. You had to be known for something, right? But so musicians back in the 60s, a lot of times they couldn't go in restaurants to eat. It was during the civil rights movement.
Okay, yes.
And during that time. And there was an apartheid in America. I call it that. Mm-hmm. And people of color could not go into restaurants and eat. And so they had to eat amongst their own people. And a lot of times there were families, like our families, that hosted dinners. And in one of those occasions, Dizzy came to our house. Yeah. Was invited to dinner. and my mom cooked. And my dad had set up a studio in the garage for me. And in the studio, I had a set of drums, and I had my piano, and I had a stereo system that my dad had put together so I could practice out in the garage. I could play drums. Drums were my second instrument. And so at this time,